I say, Throckmorton, where are my slippers? I seem to have found one out in the field. Oh wait, this is not a slipper. This is the new amazingly aerodynamic 2023 5th generation Prius Limited. It's got new everything, and it is one of the most fuel efficient cars ever made. But is it fun to drive? Stay with me and find out. And find my slippers! You know, one of the things about the, not the original 1st generation Prius, but really the 2nd generation Prius, which we happened to own one for a number of years. It was a terrific car. A lot of people thought it was ugly and terrible looking, and other people thought it was handsome. And the fact of the matter is, one of the most interesting aspects of the car's appearance was the fact that it looked different. From every angle you looked at the car, it actually looked different. It was amazing. Sometimes it kind of looked very, very swoopy and aerodynamic. Other times it kind of looked, I don't know, pudgy. But it never ceased to amaze me the fact that it really, depending on what angle you were looking at, the car looked different. Well, look at the new Prius. This thing screams of aerodynamic efficiency. It's also a very modern looking car, and it really achieves pretty amazing numbers. This particular model, there's 2 different drivetrains. One is the front-wheel drive drivetrain, which you see right in front of you, and the other is an all-wheel drive drivetrain. Full hybrid operation, of course, and this one has an EPA city of 52 miles per gallon. It has an EPA highway of 52 miles per gallon. And so therefore, the combined is, what, you in the back, yes? 52. That's right, 52 miles per gallon in a 4-door hatchback, which is quite roomy for 4 people. You could absolutely get 5 into it and your cargo. And it rides smooth. Is it a compact? Well, it's kind of splits that line between compact and mid-size. They probably call it a mid-size. I'll have to check. But every line is different now on the Prius. And it kind of, you know, with all the incredible focus on trucks and SUVs and everything else, cars and sedans kind of get ignored. And I don't know why that is, because people are blowing it as far as I'm concerned. Because this is one of the most efficient rides you can get. And if it's anything close to the previous generation Prii, it will probably be incredibly reliable and incredibly inexpensive to own. Low maintenance cost. Just a great all-around car. But the styling in particular blows me away. It's really beautiful. And before we go any further, I think we should look at the new powertrain, because that too is changed and optimized to be better than it was before. Let's have a look. It says right there, Hybrid Reborn. Indeed. I can't remember the original. I think the original Prius, the 1st generation, had a 1.6 liter inline 4-cylinder engine along with an electric motor. But I do remember that it went up to 1.8 liter for a long time, but this is a 2 liter. So here's the funny part about it all. It seems like the bigger the gas engine gets, the more fuel efficient it gets overall. But this is what you get when you have a company that has years and years of experience and experimentation with the hybrid system, more than anybody else by far. And they have determined this combination with this motor and this engine, they have achieved, like I said, over 50 miles per gallon in the average department due to EPA testing regimens. So there you go, which is quite amazing. But as you can see, here's our 2 liter, it basically is a dynamic force engine. They don't call it that, but that's pretty much what it is, because It uses that 016 oil that I'm always talking about, that 016 oil, as you probably know. And that's always the giveaway with these small 4-cylinder engines from Toyota. If it's a 016, it's the latest generation of engine. Now, so what we have is, look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, right there's your sparkers. Very straightforward, transverse mounted 4-cylinder. And this particular 2-liter engine puts out 150 horsepower and 139 feet-pounds of torque. And the electric side, whee, over here, this for all intents and purposes is your tie-in to your electricity, right there attached to the engine. This motor right here, and it puts out 111 horsepower and 152 pounds-feet in the torque department. And when you combine all this stuff together, you get a net of 194 horsepower. That's how they measure it. It gets difficult to measure it. You would think that you just add the horsepower of each together and that's what you get, but it doesn't work that way. There's all kinds of other things involved. But non-turbocharged, normally aspirated, and as you can see, here's our composite air intakes. Here's our air box right here, and this nice little air filter in there. Everything's small. Everything is diminutive in size because it doesn't need to be big. Now this engine, combined with the fact that this car weighs about 3,200 pounds, is more than adequate to scoot this thing around real nicely. It's got good acceleration, and more than anything else, I don't know what all is involved with this, but it seems to me like the gas engine is smoother and produces less vibration than the Prius engine power plant drivetrain systems of old. And I'm not sure why that is exactly, other than Toyota is constantly trying to improve it anyway. But when you have a situation like here, where it's not exactly a total clean sheet of paper, but in many ways it is starting from scratch to redo the car, they addressed all kinds of things. And most of the time, the engine, when you're sitting in a stoplight and then you pull away, usually you're always pulling away on electric power without the engine being running. And then in a short period of time, it starts running and fires up super fast because it doesn't use a conventional starter. It uses part of the electric motor system. And I actually, in a couple of circumstances driving this car, didn't know by vibration that the engine had started, but I did hear it. And it's not that it was exceptionally loud or anything like that, but that was the only cue I had that the engine was now running, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. So all the things are the same as previous generations in theory. They're just different in execution slightly. You have two cooling systems. You have one cooling system that is for the electric motor and one cooling system that's more conventional for the engine itself. All these things. And one thing that this car, I don't think there is a variant of the new Prius that has a nickel metal hydride battery like all the ones in the past. This one comes with a lithium-ion battery, but it's Toyota's lithium-ion battery in that it's a little bit different type of execution again than a lot of the competition uses. They don't just they've been, you know, there's things that are very positive about lithium-ion batteries to power the electric motor. One of which is, for a given amount of power, they tend to be lighter. But there's a lot of drawbacks. I think the nickel metal hydrides do better in extreme temperatures. They have shown over time through all the other Prius models to be bulletproof. They last a very, very long time. And you don't have a lot of the cooling considerations and stuff to the extreme that you have with the lithium-ion battery. But I can promise you this, if Toyota puts this battery in this car, it's probably one of the most tested lithium-ion batteries that's out on the market in any kind of a car, including full electrics. They're really conscientious about the fact that it's got to be reliable and it's got to have long-term dependability. You got to remember that, I don't know if they still do, but at least they did. They owned a huge stake, if not the entire stake, in Panasonic batteries. And Panasonic has always been at the forefront of creating all kinds of batteries. So that's where that comes from now. That is fully lithium-ion battery based, and it is mounted underneath the rear seat, just like Prius batteries have always been located. So there's your engine. It's nice, isn't it? Your transmission is, of course, an electronic CVT, which is a fancy way of saying it's actually an electric motor type transmission. It's not like a conventional mechanical CVT at all. It works on the principle of just the motors turning, and as the engine, as you call upon the car to go faster, the motor just spins more. And even when the engine is at play with the motor system, it's the motor system ultimately that selects the transmission ratio that you're in. So that's why if you broke down, you couldn't, if your electric motor side broke down, you couldn't just power around on the gas engine or vice versa. They work together in tandem, in harmony. And as I mentioned before, over time it's proved to be a very, very reliable setup. So that's our engine compartment. Let's look some more and see what else they've changed on this Marville. Wow, I had to pull way back. Look at the size of these wheels. They're enormous. They may be, what, 24s? Well, this is the limited, the top of the range. Spared no expense. And actually, these are not massive. They're actually 19-inch. But they really fill out the wheel well nicely and look good from a styling standpoint. And they seem to perform well. With a hybrid like this, one of the things that the OEM manufacturers work on is putting a standard tire on it that's very, very fuel efficient. In other words, it has very low rolling resistance. But this is still an M+S mud and snow rated tire for all season operation. It's a 195/50 R19 Toyo. And the brakes on it are, quite substantial. For a 3,200-pound car, they do a great job of slowing the car down. And while I'm just mentioning the brakes, the regenerative braking system, which is, as we know, children, when the motors are coasting or the brakes are applied, the motors swap over to generators and they slow the car down because they're dragging to turn the actual generator part. That's being turned by the wheels, which slows the car down and helps the braking system. So that helps your brakes last longer, and it also recharges the battery in the process. That's one of the neat things about hybrids. And Toyota's regenerative system has always been great in that it's been pretty seamless. You don't notice it, and it just it does its thing. Another change on the car is our door handle right here. This is electronique, and the inside, of course, to get you out is mechanical, as near as I can tell. They're getting so confusing with adopting all this electronic door handle stuff that I don't know why they do it, because it's just something else that can fail if you drive into a pond. And I'm driving into ponds all the time. I'm a diver, I can't help it. But that's interesting. It's kind of like what the original, well, the second generation Tundra had up there for its extended cab version. So, look here. Power operation. And here is our cargo area. According to the specs, this is a 20 cubic feet of space back here. It looks like it's not as roomy as it was on our 2008 model, but I'm probably wrong about that. It just looks different. It has the 60/40 folding seat backs up there to increase your cargo area. And what do we have down here? Well, we have that. Then we have a bunch of storage area, and if you go all the way up here, oh dear, flat repair kit, motility kit, so it doesn't have a spare tire. I don't know if that's across the board thing. I don't know if all Prius models get rid of the spare tire. I hope not, because I think you need to have a temporary spare to get you where you're going without waiting 10 days for the auto club. And a lot of times, if you have a bad enough damaged tire, no motility kit is going to get you going again. You're going to need something more substantial, like another wheel with a tire on it. Nice, huh? This beautiful, beautiful styling, I'm telling you. They really went out of their way to combine. This is what the styling goals are. Primarily smooth aerodynamic efficiency, and look at how smooth that car is. You can just look at it and you feel that the coefficient of drag is very low. And then that's from a pure styling standpoint. Man, That's a beautiful car. Now, what does it do to your interior room and stuff? Well, we'll get into that because it's not a problem. It does have, I think, the steepest raked windshield I have ever seen. And that's going to be a real gold mine for people that sell sun deflectors that you put up in to keep the heat out of your car. Because I don't think you're going to just buy anything at the local parts store that's going to fit on there. You're probably going to need a special fit just because of the incredible rake of the windshield. But the car does have good passenger room. And overall, it's, I believe, an inch or two lower than the Prius before it. But I think overall room is about the same. They really worked hard on this to do that always elusive and extremely important thing, which is to keep all the characteristics of the car that people loved when a car's been on the road for a long time and very successful, and yet improve it the way they want to improve it. And I think they've definitely nailed it overall, but especially in the styling department. I dare you people that say the previous generation Priuses were ugly and tell me this is an ugly car, because it ain't. It's beautiful. You know, I think I've driven every generation of Prius. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have. Definitely the first one, definitely the second one, definitely the third one, definitely the fourth. Yeah, and this is the latest generation, all new, and as usual, something that's there's a lot of things about this car that's very consistent with all the Prius sedans that have come before, and that is the fact that the instrument cluster is always a little different than your conventional cars. For a while, the speedometer, if I remember correct, on the second generation was like somewhere over there, like right in the middle. But they've always kind of played around with this, and you get used to it. It's a funny thing about it. At first, I thought when it was in an unconventional location, it'd take a long time to get used to it, but it really doesn't. You become accustomed to it faster than you might think. But this new instrument cluster is beautiful. It's a really, really nice flat screen graphic. And this is a car, incidentally, since its introduction in the United States about the year 2000, that has never really had a conventional instrument cluster in terms of mechanical instruments. It's always been electronic. And this is no exception, as you might be able to tell. It's very interesting because it's very different from what came before it. And you have a lot of adjustments you can make. You got to learn your way around the menus, and of course, as is always common practice these days, you have a thumb drive here. Then you push a button, and there's our average, which is excellent. 49.7 miles per gallon, and I've driven the car 120 miles. And that's all kinds of driving, by the way. Some of it in normal mode, and some of it in eco mode, and I don't think I ever put it in sport mode, but you really don't need to. I mean, if you need the extra power, you just put your foot into it, and no matter what mode you're in, you will have both electric and internal combustion engine power at the ready. So here we have the main submenu thing over there, where you can adjust it. There's what tells you about your audio, tells you about trip stuff, and this is a really important one right here because I have most of this turned off. This is your lane keeping, which I have turned off. Blind spot notification, the BSM, I always have that on in any car I'm driving. I think that it's one of the most useful pieces of modern technology there is. This one is pre-crash something. It's to stop the car if it's about to bash into something. This is your PDA, which is your predictive driving assist, and I really don't like it because it's a system that, for example, you're going down a hill that has some curves in it, and if it thinks you're going faster than you should be, it will slow the car down. It will put the brakes on by itself, and I hate that. I really, really don't like that. Next, we have the parking assist, which is on, which will beep, of course. That's becoming more and more standard on all scope of cars, whether it's economy cars on up, to help you back the car up without bashing into anything. This is the rear cross traffic alert. That's turned on. Rear CD, I think that's a pedestrian. I see that a rear Rear CD. Well, we'll move past that. It's on. This is turned off. This is the parking that'll slam on the brakes if you're backing up and it thinks there's something there. The reason I've turned this off is because the other day I had a dog running around the car, but I knew exactly where he was, and he wasn't in any place that he was going to get hit at all, but the car wouldn't move. It was literally paralyzed because the sensors were telling it there was this thing running around, and I can't have that. I can't have that, so I turned that off. This is the Safe Exit Assist, which is real interesting. Now, according to my friends at Toyota, they believe, in the press department, that this, you see this, let's go down here. See that little paddle down there? That fits into the door in the slot right there. And what that does is, if you open the door and there's a car about to come cream you, it will tell you. Wait a second, got to do this. Okay, there we go. It will tell you, and it will warn you that there's a car coming, and you really shouldn't get out of the car right now, else they're going to take the door off and kill you. So that's a very nice feature to have. This is your road sign assistance, which I always like too, because it tells you what your road signs are likely telling you in terms of the speed limit and that kind of thing. So you can always just glance up and see what the speed limit is usually, because the road sign assistant is activated, and it knows. It knows. So that's that. This down here is, they hate the fact that I have parking support braking turned off, and they tell me constantly when I start the car and stuff that it's on, and turn it off. I mean, it's turned off. You need to turn it on because you're going to have an accident. You're going to back into something. No, I'm not. I'm good, but that's what they do. And otherwise, that's pretty much it. Now, you're asking yourself now, yes, this is all well and good, but what about drive modes? Oh, of course we have drive modes. We have custom, which in the larger center touchscreen will give you options to adjust and pick and choose from all these other programs to customize your experience. The engine just turned on. The whole time I've been sitting here, there's been no engine. But now it just fired up. The 2-liter gas engine is fired up because I've been using all this battery power, including the air conditioner, because it's 82 degrees outside. And then we have the sport setting, and then we have normal, and then we have eco. And of course, eco and sport are diametrically opposed to each other. But unlike most situations, when you select sport, everything doesn't turn red. You just have an indicator in the middle of the speedometer there. And same thing with eco. It doesn't turn everything green, but there's a little green down here. And then you go up the sport, and there's a little bit of red there. So there you go. We'll leave this in normal for now. Normal. Okay. So all this stuff has been accessed. Let me tilt this up for you. Maybe the light will be a little bit better. All this is accessed via all these wonderful buttons and switches and everything else. Your volume, your talk to the car thing, Siri, whatever the hell it is that I never talk to. The cruise control has multiple modes here. It has cruise control unavailable, shift into drive. Well, that makes sense to me. But you have a couple of different modes, and this is your cruise control mode switch right here. Adaptive cruise mode is where I'm at, which is my favorite. But there's also non-adaptive cruise mode, I believe, because I haven't used it. Adaptive cruise mode, cruise control mode. Regular cruise control mode does not control the following distance of the car in front of you. And, I recommend adaptive because, it's just great to have. This is your lane centering, which you can see right here. It's gray right now, but if we were on the road, you'd be able to see that it will self-steer the car to try to keep you in your lane. If that's what you want to do, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane! And then we have, of course, the following distance adjusters, which is 4 different links, which I believe are car links, I think. Not positive, but I believe that. Then you have some of your radio controls down here. This is all this cruise area here. And then over here is what I was just using to navigate the menus up there. And then your volume. And so you got radio stuff over here, you got radio stuff here, but it's on the lower quadrant of the steering wheel. And then as you go up, then you have cruise, and then you have menu, And then, so there's almost a twisted logic to it, almost. But over here, we have more controls. Beneath here, you have the convenience of your raising and lowering the illumination of your instrument cluster there, depending on your lighting conditions. But it's pretty much automatic and does a fine job. You never need to touch that. And this here is your trip odometer, your B, your regular. That's when your next service interval is needed, I should say. And this is 2,060 miles. Is how 2,360 miles is how many miles we have on it. And there's my trip A. And over to the far left, we have this is a very nice dedicated button because it actually tells you, you have a real easy way to turn on and off the automatic lighting system that will dim the lights if a bright light is coming towards you, like a car that's got its bright lights on. Or if you don't want to blind somebody, basically. The car will do that for you automatically, but if you're in a circumstance that doesn't work very well due to a million different things about what conditions might be that would affect that, you can just turn it off with that switch right there. This is the lower part of the windshield heating, which is great because it's like a de-icer for the bottom part of the windshield in the area of where the windshield wipers are. So that's excellent winter prep, as is your heated steering wheel right there. All right, we go over here. We got parking assist, which I never use that, never test it. I don't understand why. I think you should be able to park your car. That's just me. I'm sure it probably works dandy. Now here's our cameras. And look at here. There's our 360. Woo! Nice, huh? Can we adjust this? What happens if I press that? There we go. The car has vanished, and yet we still have a nice 360-degree view here to tell you what is around. Like if there's, I dare to say it, but little dogs running around. Then you can pause. Then you can go down here. What do we have down here? Panoramic view monitor, advanced parking, cornering view, a view under the vehicle, park assist 3D display, park assist distance, vehicle body color. Well, you know I love that. I guess, is that our vehicle body color? Oh, there it is. Which one are we? We're blue. We're that one. You got to have that right. If you don't have that right, there's something wrong. You ain't right, as far as I'm concerned. And this is your more conventional display as far as further away, and you got your whole world spinning around with your camera display. And naturally, when you put the car in reverse, I shall do so now. You got your 360 and you got your conventional rear camera back there that also has the outline there, so you can tell when you turn the wheel, it'll help tell you where your rear tires are. So all these things to help you park this car, which is already, to be honest with you, a pretty easy car to park. Already, it's a very straightforward thing. This center touchscreen is beautiful. It is very, very widescreen. In its horizontal and or landscape situation, and most of the stuff that you're going to do with the car that makes it more inconvenient because you got to go through the touchscreen. For example, there's your audio. It's select audio or select source. And since I have the audio turned off right now, it's not going to tell me anything, and I'm not going to turn it on because it might annoy you. So there's your telephone settings, and here is the car itself. Now, what does this do? Climate, trip information, energy flow. You'll see this as we're driving, and I still don't like this particular graphic, which apparently is on all hybrid Lexus and Toyota vehicles, and I just don't like the look of this graphic. It's very useful in terms of telling you what energy is floating where. Like right now, the engine is obviously off, and we're just running off battery power. But I really enjoy having that available because there's times you might want to check that and have a look. Now this is a front wheel drive only car, so by that nature, of it, there is no breakdown in terms of which tire is getting traction because it's very straightforward. Just the front tire is getting traction. All right, down here. Here is our conventional. I would say pretty conventional. It's a little bit different in some ways. Your climate control system. And what we have here is we have heating. Yay. Huh. This is interesting. Oh, I just turned on the... I'm blind as a bat. I'm sorry. There we go. There's our heating. And here is our... I'll leave one of these on here. Oh, that's nice. And that's your ventilation. Got that for both of your front seats. And when this is on the automatic mode, which it is now, and then you can adjust your temperature. And I have both sides right now are being operated by the one. The one. So I usually leave it on about 68. And by the way, as you can also see, this is becoming more and more common, and I really like it. You got that nice little strip of lighting. And see, it went off, it comes back on. That does not happen to the naked eye, by the way. That's a camera thing. But it's there, glowing, welcoming you. I believe there are adjustments you can make to that. Matter of fact, let's see if I can do it quickly. Can't do anything quickly on this car. Climate, trip information. Let's go down here. Personal info, display, voice and search, vehicle customize. That's us. Boarding and exit. Lights. Auto on system, timer, daytime running lights. No, this doesn't have anything. I thought I might be able to play with the color scheme, but I think it's blue and it's going to stay blue because what color is the car? Blue. There you go. So before we go down, we'll go up here, and here are our controls for naturally your dome light, your very excellent map lights, and of course you got your shade control and everything else for your, where is it? Well, why can't I find it? What the heck? Now, I knew how to do it before. Have I lost my way? Yeah, apparently so. Huh. I'll find it. Where in the world are the controls for this thing? Are they down here? Well, let's go back to front, shall we? This is your braking hold, so it will hold the brakes if you're on a hill, I believe. I think that's how that works. And the park brake is now adjusted so that whenever you put the car in park, the park brake automatically loads up, which is great. This is your EV mode, which is your electric vehicle mode. And it will stay in electric-only power as long as the battery can manage it. Always great to have, especially at drive-thrus. This is your traction control off, your drive mode, which you have seen before. And our shifter is interesting because it's semi-conventional. It's electronic. But the actual shifting into like drive, reverse, neutral, and you have the ability of going into the B mode if you want. How do you do that, William? Wait, am I not pressing something? Straight back, that's how you do it. The B mode is the braking mode, and that actually increases engine braking via the regenerative braking system, but that can be very useful when you're coming down a really steep grade that's really long. And now, how do I put it in park, though? That is different. Instead of sliding this around, you press that button, and that's how you go into park. So it's kind of a hybrid system, I should say, button versus shifter. Here we have our charger, our QI charger for your cell phone. Seems to work much better than a lot of the other toy systems because it's actually better contained and stays in place better during spirited cornering. By the way, when I was up here, we have a couple of our USB-C interfaces for you. And here we have, this is just a storage area that you can take this off if you want. And I think a lot of people probably will. And we come all the way back, and there is a shallow, you can put a shoe in there, and a couple of more USB-C ports, and that's your console pretty much. Very straightforward. Now, how in the world, I still can't get over the fact that I don't seem to have, I want to close that, but, oh, This is how stupid I am, ladies. I am so spoiled and used to everything being electronic. How about this? That's how you close it. And I think there's, we'll look in the back seat. I think the shade for the panorama in the back is actually a switch. We'll find out. That's so embarrassing. I'm looking for a switch. It doesn't exist just because I'm so used to them. How's the glove box? The glove box is pretty much average. A little better than average, actually. It's a good glove box. There's plenty of room. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about is how great these seats are, because they really are good. They offer excellent support. And what in the world are they made out of? Well, I always have to look this up. It's a fixed glass roof, by the way. That's another reason why I couldn't find a switch to open up the sunroof, because the sunroof does not open. It's just fixed. So that answers that. And I think what we have here is probably some kind of synthetic instead of a Android Auto compatible, of course. Serious JBL is their go-to premium Softex trim heated and ventilated front seats. Yes, it is Softex, and Softex can really fool you into thinking it's leather, because it does just a magnificent job, except I think it's a little bit more water resistant than leather is. But whenever you have ventilated seats, by the way, you don't want to like dump a gallon of water on top of them. It's not a good idea. It won't destroy anything if you're lucky, but that's the way you want to go with that. And for no further ado, something I'm really curious about, because it's always been a strong point with the Prius, is the rear seat. So let's have a look. So this is funkadelic, this rear. It almost looks like there's a Tundra over there. I could compare the two, but I'm not going to bother. The Tundra over there, it's the same color as this. How weird is that? Electronic feeling to it. And there you go. And the door is pretty wide, pretty generous door. It doesn't open as much as I would like. I'd say that's about 80 degrees. But as we get ourselves all situated back here, there is excellent room. The headroom is probably the only area that it's not overwhelmingly great, but it's perfectly good. But you have good leg room here. And you also have a manual shade. Yeah, this is great. When you think about it, it's brilliant, because with all these motors and everything else that people are putting in these shades for panoramic roofs, it's nice to have a manual one, because nothing's going to go wrong with that. You'll have that 20 years from now and it'll still work. Now then, oh, I can't lower my window. Why can't I lower my window? Ow, hang on, it's locked. Yeah, there. Why do people do that? I don't know. There we go. 100%. I do like that. And this front seat on this passenger side is all the way back, so it pretty much eats up most of your leg room. But that's way back. I mean, that's tall. That's Michael Jordan territory. That's tall. So for most people, that is perfectly. You'll have a very pleasant ride back here. You also have, what's this? Heated seats on the outboard stations. A very slight drive shaft type tunnel. Of course, there's no drive shaft. But overall, your foot room is very good. And now, let's have a look at our armrest. It's all part. Oh, that's just right. That's the perfect height, in my opinion. So now, let's say I'm sitting here and I'm enjoying my armrest. I would like to read my novel, my Douglas Adams Hitchhiker to the Galaxy novel, and look there. That's a very nice map light. I'm not reading no maps. You have a navigation system. You have to find your way. As driver, as you, right there, you have to find your own way. I'm going to just enjoy my book. So, very nice. Why is it, I notice this all the time. Only one person back here gets this nice little pocket to store their magazines and things back when there were magazines. I'm sorry, your tablet computer. But this guy gets nothing. You get nothing. Well, and that's real common. I find that on cars all the time. I'm going to open that back up here. There we go. So we got some more room. But overall, good room. How does it compare to the previous Prius sedans? Tough one. I feel like it has slightly less headroom, but otherwise it's about the same, which is good. It's got good room back here. Perfectly adequate. And of course, we can fold. Let's, I know we've been back here before, but I want to look at one thing here. When we fold that down, it's like a 60-20 maybe, something like that. I do feel like the cargo area is a little bit shallower, but if you do, this is nice, your little enclosure thing to keep things secure. But if you do lower the rear seats, you have quite a bit of cargo area there. So you could, could you move your dorm room? Yeah, I think you probably could, as long as you haven't overdone it. If you're more of a minimalist type, you know, you like your feng shui situation, and you're real careful with that. You know, you don't want to overdo, you don't want to burden yourself with possessions when you're going to college. So there you go. That's our insides of our beautiful, beautiful 2023 Prius Limited. Nice car. Well, windshield wipers are good. It seems to me that they changed the configuration of the rear hatch, in that all Priuses up to this point have had a split rear window that's kind of cool. But they also had a rear windshield wiper. This one doesn't have it. And it's got rain all over it right now, and I don't like the fact that I can't press a button anywhere and I can't get it to clean off. That's not good. I don't think that's the way to go. If I get out of the car and I notice there is one, and for some reason the actuator for it is someplace different, I will let you know. But the fact of the matter is, you need that. I had another vehicle not too long ago. It was the same situation. It didn't have a rear windshield wiper, and it really needed one. I mean, it's part of the necessity of being able to see. But does this come back to another thing that a friend of mine was talking about the other day, is about backup cameras. Where he lives in a place gets a lot of rain every year and a lot of snow in the wintertime, and he says that his rear camera on his car is always dirty, and it's almost unusable half the time because there's some kind of stuff on it, some kind of smudge, and it won't work. So he said, I wish they put a washer on that. I don't know of anybody that has. That means probably somebody somewhere has done that. But still, the Volkswagen way on the Golf, where the camera's hidden underneath the latch, so that when you put it in reverse, the latch opens up so that the camera is revealed. But it keeps the camera, clean when you're not using it. Now let's see if I can get this cruise control to operate now that I'm starting to understand its ways. There we go. And I was able to finally turn off the what is called what is it called? Anticipatory. It's the PDA, Predictive Driving Assistant. That's what it is. I have managed to turn that off, and that makes me oh so happy, because I really don't like it. Oop, there we go. So that's good that I've done that. What else can I say? I have started to notice that there's more road noise than I would have anticipated. That probably is, you got to be careful when you have a vehicle like this, where you have differences that with different trim levels, you get different size wheels and different size tires. And a lot of times road noise, most of the road noise that you're hearing is directly from the tires, the tread design and that kind of thing. So I don't know how much the road noise I'm getting on this car. It's not terrible, but it's noticeable. And the new display screen here is very widescreen, very Lawrence of Arabia, and very clear. And as I mentioned before, because I'm going to keep mentioning this, every time I get a Toyota with the modern system, as far as their touchscreen center display is concerned, I always put it on nighttime, because the daytime stuff I find very difficult to read for some reason. Maybe it's just me, but I did notice that when this vehicle was dropped off by the fleet company, whoever the fleet company driver was, they'd done the same thing I did. They had it on nighttime, and I just think it works a whole lot better when it's in that particular mode. You can put it on automatic where it switches back and forth, but man, I just don't know. I think it's much better this way. It's especially better for photography. When you're doing imagery of it, it seems to show up a lot better when it's on the dark mode. But so far, what is our mileage? Let us ask this question. That's not what I want. There we go. That's what I want. So, we've gone 53 miles so far, and our ratio of pure electric vehicle driving is 42%, nearly half. That's kind of interesting. Our eco score is 67. I don't know what that means, but my average miles per gallon so far, and then, like I said, just 53 miles, is 45 miles per gallon, which is very good. And it hasn't been, I have not been driving in situations that are helpful in terms of gas mileage, quite the opposite. So, we are there in that particular situation. And we are in, which mode are we in? We were in custom, which is the one I personally selected. It was my choice. Why don't we just put her on straight eco? See what happens. Let's do that. But I quite like the fact that, and you're seeing more and more of this, like I mentioned before, is you can customize your settings so that the variables that you have that are adjustable on the car, such as your steering feedback and your engine feedback, you can fine tune it to your own desires. You could have it on a sporty mode with your. I don't think this has a suspension sporty mode, does it? I have to go back and check. I've already checked, though, haven't I? Before I actually do that, they're always out of place here. I always do a lot of my driving before I actually go over what's with the car. And I am just changing my following distance. I really do like this new display, though, as far as the for lack of a better term, the fonts they use and everything else. It's very concise, very easy to read, and looks to be very, very well. It's well thought out, and it has a look of quality about it, which is always nice for any car. All the things. Here's the secret. I'm going to tell you a secret. And some manufacturers learned this long ago, and some have yet to learn it to this day. But if you want to impart a feeling of quality to a car, you should do that by everything that the driver interacts with. The switchgear, the steering wheel, everything that they touch, if it has a quality feel, if the controls have a quality feel, it imparts a sense of quality. It's kind of like telling the owner of the vehicle that everything on the car is thought out. Everything is designed to be of high quality, because that's what you'll end up with. With Toyota has been doing this for decades. that the actual, anything you interact with, turn signals and everything else. Now this one's interesting. The new Prius is interesting because there's things on it that have a very, very nice high quality feel, and some things that don't seem as good as some of the switchgear and other things on other Toyotas that I've tested over the years. Well, there's an interesting first for your new generation Prius. Usually, since I've driven every generation of Prius they've made, usually when the engine starts, you start out on electric power, usually, as with most hybrids. And then the engine kicks on at some point. And when the engine kicks on, you can feel it. It's not bad. It's never been bad. But you're just aware, you can feel it. You know, it's happening. The engine is, in fact, firing up. So, with this car, I was just putting it through the parking lot, and it starts out on electric power. And then when the engine actually comes on, I didn't feel it. I heard it, but I did not feel anything, not the slightest vibration or anything like that. I think that's very interesting. It's like everything about this car, being the latest generation Prius, it's still absolutely a Prius, but they've gone to work. You know, they've not quite a totally clean sheet of paper. They have the objectives and the things people like about the previous Prius generations, and they want to employ that into the new one, but they also are using new systems, new things. It's a new engine, this 2-liter engine, which is a dynamic force engine, the latest they make. Uses that 0.16 weight oil on it, you can always tell. But it's also, there's just a lot of little changes to this vehicle that have made it, it drives better. The biggest problem I have had with this particular Prius so far is just that it's all part of, an integral part of Toyota Safety Sense 3. There is more and more and more automation going in the cars. Everybody's doing this, of course, not just Toyota. But there's so much of it I don't like. And I feel obligated to, I want to have the car in my control at all times. I don't like, fine, cruise control, yeah, and adaptive cruise control, of course. But anything beyond that, I'm not real fond of. And this took me a while to figure out exactly how to get the adaptive cruise control to work properly. Because you can disconnect, you have a mode selection that uses different types of cruise control, which I'm still learning. And it's annoying because I'd like it to be simpler, more straightforward than it actually is. And I'm sure I'll get used to it. As with all things, if you were to purchase this car or any other car that's loaded with new technology, once you've owned it for a while, you will learn its ways. But the learning curve part of it on so many newer cars is much steeper than I think is appropriate. I think they should be much more intuitive than they are. Another thing about this Prius is it just seems to have a lot more get up and go. I ain't heard that term in a while, have you? You get up and go. It is a term used to describe one's ability to get up and go. And the acceleration is very, very smooth. Another thing they changed on it, little things. The low speed sound that all Toyota hybrids make has been altered to the point it's completely different on this car than compared with any electrified Toyota, and including the new all-electric BZ4X. I think that's what it's called. I've driven it. I like it actually quite a bit. But it has a low-speed pedestrian warning tone, sound, ambient, auditory warning system that is different than what I'd experienced before. And the new Prius right here has one that's just very strange. I like the old one. I like what it used to do. Now it does something that I don't really like as much. You know, the minute I got underneath this Prius, the first thing I thought of was RAV4, just because it reminded me of the RAV4 suspension, although they're actually very, very different. But, and it sounds like a barking dog. You know, he's no help. You see, this is what is called no help dog. Okay, so anyway, we have our unibody construction. Then you have your subframe here, where your suspension is bolted on there, and it makes a barking sound. Excuse me. Stand by one. You know, the first thing I thought of when I got underneath this Prius was, wow, it's a RAV4. Well, it isn't. It's sort of similar, though. There are similarities. But what you have here is your standard unibody construction with a subframe that is located on both the front and the back that houses and serves as an anchor point for your suspension components. Now, what's really interesting about our Prius Limited here is that you notice right this area right in here, this item right in here. Well, this vehicle is also available with all-wheel drive. So, in the case that you have that particular system on this vehicle, I'm assuming that's part, that could be a central jacking point too, but the rear drive system probably goes in right around here. And the rear drive system is just like on the RAV4 in that it's completely separate from the front drive system and is composed of an electric motor. And all this is tied into the main battery system when you have all-wheel drive. But in the two-wheel drive situation that we have here, you don't have any of that complexity or any of that other stuff. You just have a nice multi-link rear suspension. And it looks actually, an interesting thing about it is it looks pretty stout. And I'll tell you one thing, this car handles real nice. For, not that Prius started out, if I remember, the 2004 to 2010 variant had a beam rear axle. I've talked about those before. It's not really independent, but it does kind of act independently, if that makes any sense. But this is a true multi-link rear independent suspension. As you can see, everything's pretty well protected underneath this car. It's not designed to go off-road, obviously. But I think it's very important to have a car that's sealed up enough that you can, what I like to call an unimproved driving situation, where you go down driveways and different things where things aren't paved and beautiful and look like something out of, you know, what show was that show? Sort of like Downton Abbey or something like that. I don't think they had improved drives anyway. But you have that. All this stuff is protected, including, I believe underneath there is your fuel tank. And of course you have the battery, which is actually under the rear seat, but part of it is actually in this sort of the mid chassis area, and it's protected. So everything on the car is very well protected. And the ride quality is very good on this car, but what really impresses me the most is the handling, which is great. And this rear suspension on this brand new 5th generation is one of the big reasons why. Nice job, Toyota. Well, I tell you, that's what happens with your Prius over the years. It gets even swoopier, even better, and even more fuel efficient. Like I said, it's 52 miles per gallon city, 52 highway, and 52 overall, which is easy enough. Our 2023 limited model with our options, which is actually very few except the limited premium package, came to $37,494 in terms of your sticker. Now, I'll tell you something. It's really admirable for a company to take a car that's been very popular and just make it better. And I think more than any other thing, that's what they did. And they're careful about what they do, unlike some pilots that fly drones that need to have some talking to. You guys be careful out there. We'll see you soon.